The night was alive with whispers of the unknown as the sky above Jericho City turned into an illuminated canvas, showcasing a display of ethereal lights unlike any meteor shower recorded in human history. The citizens, clad in their nighttime attires, crowded the streets and rooftops, their faces upturned in awe. Among them was Theo, a young man with a brilliant mind and a knack for unraveling cosmic mysteries, driven by an insatiable curiosity about the universe. The spectacle above seemed like a celestial invitation, and Theo, with his telescope in hand, was among the first to notice that these were no ordinary meteors. They were ships, sleek and glimmering with starlight, descending not in chaos, but with an elegant purpose. The largest of these vessels, shaped like a teardrop and encased in a shimmering silver aura, made a controlled descent into the nearby forest, away from the prying eyes of the city's inhabitants. Compelled by an irresistible urge to witness this historic moment up close, Theo grabbed his backpack, filled it with essentials, and slipped away from the crowd. He navigated through the dark, dense forest, guided by the fading light of the vessel's descent. As he approached, the air grew thick with a tangy scent of ozone, and the ground vibrated under his feet, a silent testament to the power of the craft nestled among the trees. There, in a small clearing, stood the alien ship. It was more magnificent up close, its surface smooth and cool to the touch, pulsating gently with a rhythm that mimicked a heartbeat. Theo's heart raced as the hatch began to open, sliding with a hiss that shattered the night's stillness. From the ship emerged a figure, tall, regal, her skin luminescent under the moon's tender glow. Her eyes, large and expressive, reflected a starry abyss filled with both wisdom and wariness. She was an alien princess, as evident from the ethereal robe that fluttered around her and the diadem of glowing gems upon her brow. Theo, hiding behind a thick copse of trees, watched as she surveyed her surroundings with a grace that belied her obvious confusion and distress. "Who are you?" Theo found himself stepping forward, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. The princess turned towards him, her eyes widening slightly in surprise. "I am Princess Illyria of the Starlit Dominion," she spoke, her voice musical yet tinged with a noticeable strain. "I have come seeking sanctuary and allies. My dominion is in peril, besieged by forces that covet our energy sources. I fled here to Earth, hoping to find refuge." Theo, though initially taken aback by the revelation, felt a surge of protectiveness. "Why Earth? Why trust us?" he asked, moving closer. "Because throughout the cosmos, humans are known for their resilience and kindness," Illyria explained, her gaze softening. "Yet since my arrival, none have dared to help, fearing what they do not understand." Moved by her plight, Theo made a decision that would forever alter the course of his life. "I will help you, Princess Illyria. Whatever it takes, I'm with you." A smile, small but genuine, graced Illyria's lips. "Then, dear Theo, let us hope your world is as kind as its reputation," she said, extending her hand in a gesture of trust. As their fingers touched, a spark of cosmic energy danced between them, sealing a bond that transcended worlds. Together, they turned towards the city lights, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by a shared destiny and an unspoken understanding that they were no longer alone in the universe. In the quiet hours before dawn, Theo and Princess Illyria made their way back to the city. Theo's mind buzzed with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Introducing an alien princess into his world was not something he had ever imagined, but the gravity of the situation lent him a purpose he'd never felt before. They reached his modest apartment just as the first light of day began to paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. Inside, Illyria looked around with a gentle curiosity, her eyes lingering on the small trinkets of human life that Theo had collected over the years. "It is much like us, yet so different," she murmured, touching a photo of Theo with his family. As Theo brewed some coffee, he pondered their next move. They needed allies, but who would believe such an incredible story without proof? Illyria, sensing his unease, produced a small luminescent stone from a fold in her garment. "This is a piece of starlight," she explained. "A source of energy in my world, powerful and sacred." The stone pulsed with a gentle light, casting patterns on the walls. Theo watched, fascinated. "We could show them this," he suggested, but Illyria shook her head. "Revealing this might attract the wrong kind of attention. There are those who would exploit it, just as they did in my realm." Understanding the danger, Theo nodded. They needed a plan that was discreet yet convincing. As they discussed their options, a news alert flashed across Theo's phone screen. A local scientist, Dr. Alara Miles, renowned for her work in astrophysics and her open-minded approach to extraterrestrial theories, was speaking at a university nearby. "That's it!" Theo exclaimed. "Dr. Miles could help us. She's always been a proponent of preparing Earth for interstellar relations." Illyria agreed, and they decided to approach Dr. Miles after her lecture. Disguised in a hooded cloak to conceal her identity, Illyria accompanied Theo to the university. They waited in the back of the lecture hall, where Dr. Miles discussed the possibilities of life beyond Earth, her passion for the subject evident in her animated gestures and expressive voice. After the lecture, Theo and Illyria approached her. Initially taken aback by their sudden appearance, Dr. Miles's skepticism turned to intrigue as Illyria lowered her hood, revealing her luminous eyes and ethereal beauty. Theo quickly explained their situation, and Illyria showed her the piece of starlight, its glow undeniable in the dim light of the hallway. Dr. Miles, a scientist at heart, was captivated. "This is beyond any earthly mineralogy," she whispered, her professional curiosity piqued. "I will help you, but we must be cautious." With Dr. Miles on their side, they discussed strategies late into the night at her lab, surrounded by books and instruments that suddenly seemed antiquated in comparison to the alien technology Illyria described. They decided to reach out to a select group of trusted colleagues and set up a secret meeting to discuss the implications of Illyria's presence and how best to assist her. Meanwhile, the forces that pursued Illyria had not given up their search. Unseen, they gathered in the shadows, monitoring and waiting for the moment to strike. The city, unbeknownst to its inhabitants, teetered on the brink of a cosmic confrontation, with Theo, Illyria, and Dr. Miles at the heart of the brewing storm. As the chapter closes, the stakes are higher, the allies fewer but fiercely devoted, and the shadow of danger ever looming. Theo, once a mere spectator of the stars, now finds himself a pivotal player in a galactic drama that will determine the fate of not just one, but two civilizations. As dawn broke over Jericho City, a clandestine gathering was taking place in the basement of Dr. Alara Miles's sprawling Victorian home, which doubled as her personal research facility. The walls, lined with ancient star maps and high-tech equipment, formed a curious amalgamation of past and future, a fitting backdrop for the meeting of minds about to unfold. Among the attendees were experts in various fields: astrophysics, xenobiology, quantum mechanics, and cryptography. They had been carefully chosen for their expertise and discretion, and now sat around an old oak table, casting curious glances at the figure shrouded in a cloak at the head of the table. Dr. Miles began the meeting with a stern warning about the secrecy and gravity of the situation. Then, with a nod from Illyria, Theo introduced her formally. "This is Princess Illyria of the Starlit Dominion. She comes seeking our aid against forces that threaten her people and potentially our own world." The room was heavy with a stunned silence as Illyria removed her hood, revealing her ethereal appearance. Her voice, calm yet resonant, filled the room as she recounted her harrowing journey, the betrayal of her trusted advisors, and the usurpation of her throne by a power-hungry regent who sought to harvest the Dominion's energy sources. Starlight stones, like the one she had shown them. The scientists listened, rapt, as Illyria detailed the properties of the starlight stones, which could provide clean, limitless energy, or in the wrong hands, the means to unmake worlds. Her plight struck a chord with them all, as each understood the potential ramifications of such power unleashed. Dr. Rajan Gupta, a quantum physicist, was the first to speak. "We must devise a method to shield this technology, perhaps encapsulate the stone's energy emissions so it cannot be detected from afar." Mariana Voss, a xenobiologist, added, "And we need to understand more about your biology, Princess. There might be ways we can assist you in blending in more effectively here on Earth to protect you. The discussion turned to the creation of a multidisciplinary task force aimed at integrating Illyria's knowledge with Earth's technology, while also devising strategies to counter any threats from her enemies. Theo watched, amazed at the coalition forming around this otherworldly refugee, driven by a shared commitment to knowledge and a deep-seated desire to protect their world. As the meeting drew to a close, Dr. Miles approached Illyria with a proposal. We need to establish a secure communication line between Earth and the Starlit Dominion. If we can send a message to your allies who remain loyal, we may be able to initiate a counterstrike against the Regent. Illyria agreed, touched by their dedication. There are those who would stand with us if they knew I was alive and fighting. Your assistance gives us a fighting chance. But as the group dispersed, the weight of their undertaking began to settle on their shoulders. Outside, unnoticed by any, a subtle surveillance drone, invisible to the naked eye, hovered near a window. Its sensors absorbed every word, transmitting the gathered intelligence to a dark figure shrouded in the anonymity of the network. A figure who now understood that Earth was not as defenseless as they had presumed. In the shadows of advancing threats, alliances were tested, strategies forged, and a quiet war for the survival of two worlds began to stir beneath the surface of everyday life. As Theo locked the lab's door behind the last of the departing scientists, he felt the isolation of their secret burden. Yet, in Illyria's resolute gaze, he found a spark of hope that defied the encroaching darkness. Under the cover of night, the city's silhouette stood stark against a starlit sky that held secrets of its own. Within Dr. Miles's home, now a makeshift fortress of alien-human cooperation, Theo and Illyria huddled around an ancient artifact, an astrolabe that had been modified with alien technology. It was to serve as their beacon to the Starlit Dominion, capable of breaching cosmic distances with a message of hope and rebellion. "Are you sure this will reach your allies?" Theo asked, his voice low, mindful of the walls that might carry their whispers to unwelcome ears. Illyria nodded, her fingers deftly adjusting the settings on the device. "It uses a frequency unique to my people, a whisper through the cosmos that cannot be intercepted by regular means." As she activated the astrolabe, a soft hum filled the room, harmonizing with the pulse of the starlight stone that powered it. The room bathed in a gentle blue glow, shadows dancing across the walls, creating a tapestry of light and dark. Meanwhile, Mariana and Dr. Gupta were setting up a series of experiments in a lab 2 floors below. Mariana was carefully examining samples of Illyria's physiology under a microscope enhanced with quantum sensors. Dr. Gupta, on the other hand, was working on a theoretical model to cloak the energy signature of the starlight stones. "The challenge," Dr. Gupta explained as he adjusted the parameters on his model, "is to cloak the energy without dampening its inherent properties. It must be invisible yet functional." Mariana looked up from her microscope, a look of concentration on her face. "Her cellular structure is fascinating. It's not just biologically advanced, it's woven with the same energy that powers the stones. There's a symbiosis here that could explain their reliance on these stones for more than just energy." Back upstairs, Dr. Miles was coordinating with a trusted network of global scientists, all under the guise of a multinational research initiative. She knew the importance of having a unified front should the need arise to defend against extraterrestrial threats. Each ally brought into their circle was vetted through layers of security protocols that Theo and a cybersecurity expert had set up. Their efforts were interrupted by a sudden chill that swept through the room. The astrolabe flickered, its light dimming momentarily. "What was that?" Theo asked, looking around. Illyria's expression turned grave. "We are not alone," she murmured. "My presence here has already stirred the Watchers. We must accelerate our plans." Just then, the security alarms blared, a breach in the perimeter defenses. Dr. Miles rushed into the room, her face tense. "We've got company. Not sure how many, but they've bypassed our external security. We need to move now." Theo, Illyria, and Dr. Miles quickly descended to the lab where Mariana and Dr. Gupta were working. Together, they accessed a hidden elevator that led to an underground escape route, a contingency plan for the worst-case scenario. As they descended into the earth, the sounds of their pursuers faded into a distant echo. The tunnel led them to an undisclosed location, a safe house embedded deep within the city's forgotten subway tunnels. Here, in the depths of the earth, illuminated by the eerie glow of bioluminescent fungi, they regrouped. "We need to be smarter, faster," Theo stated, his resolve hardening. "They know we're a threat now, and they'll come prepared next time." Illyria placed her hand on Theo's shoulder, her touch reassuring. "Then let us be the storm they never saw coming. Together, we are more than just survivors. We are the architects of a new dawn." Their eyes met, each reflecting the fierce determination to protect their worlds, to forge an alliance that would alter the course of history. Above them, the city remained oblivious to the silent war waged in its shadows, a battle for a future where humanity stood as equals among the stars. Beneath the bustling streets of Jericho City, Theo, Illyria, and their newfound allies faced the dawning realization of their precarious position. In the dimly lit corridors of their subterranean refuge, plans were rapidly forged, their urgency underscored by the echoing steps of their unknown adversaries above. "We must extend our network," Dr. Miles asserted, her voice echoing slightly off the damp concrete walls. "Our efforts can't remain confined to this city, or even this continent. Illyria's enemies are not bound by terrestrial borders." Illyria, standing by a makeshift table strewn with maps and digital devices, nodded in agreement. "The forces that pursue me are relentless and resourceful. They will not stop until they have recaptured me or worse. We need to be one step ahead at all times." Mariana, her eyes scanning a digital screen showing various biochemical data points, chimed in. "I've been analyzing the Starlight Stone's properties more deeply. It appears to interact with specific quantum states of energy, which could be manipulated to create a more robust cloaking field. It's complex, but with Dr. Gupta's help we might just engineer a temporary invisibility to electronic detection systems." Dr. Gupta, adjusting his glasses, looked up from a blueprint of what appeared to be a complex circuit diagram. "That could certainly help us move more freely. But our main challenge remains communication without detection. We need a way to send messages that can't be intercepted or traced back to us." As the group pondered this, Theo suggested leveraging old, unused analog frequencies for communication, a strategy that might just evade the high-tech surveillance of their pursuers. "It's old school, but sometimes the old ways are invisible to modern eyes," he explained. The discussion was interrupted by a soft alert from a device at Illyria's wrist. She tapped it, her expression growing tense. "It's a signal from my world. My loyalists have managed to send a message. They are ready to act but need confirmation that I am still free and planning a counterstrike." "The need for secure communication just became more urgent," Dr. Miles noted, turning to a large electronic wall map. "We should consider setting up a secure site outside the city, somewhere remote. It could serve as our hub for high-risk communications." Their plans took a sudden leap forward with the arrival of a new ally, Lena, a cybersecurity expert known for her unorthodox methods and deep disdain for the digital status quo. "I heard you need some ghost in your machines," she quipped upon entering, her gear clanking softly in the quiet of the underground chamber. With Lena's arrival, the group's dynamic shifted towards the technical, encryption methods, data obfuscation techniques, and the creation of a decentralized network that would allow them to communicate internally and with Illyria's forces without betraying their location or intentions. As they implemented these strategies, the group grew closer, not just as collaborators, but as comrades, united by a common cause that transcended their original pursuits. Each member took turns sharing stories of their past, of successes, failures, and the unyielding pursuit of knowledge that had defined their lives. Theo, watching the bonds form, felt a profound sense of purpose. Beside him, Illyria seemed more determined than ever, her royal demeanor softened by moments of genuine gratitude and friendship. Together, they planned, not just for a battle, but for the kind of world they wanted to see on the other side of the conflict. a world where humanity and the starlit dominion could coexist in peace and mutual respect. But as they fortified their defenses and expanded their reach, the shadows continued to gather, drawing ever closer to the heart of their sanctuary. The battle for the future was just beginning, and they were all painfully aware that not all would make it through unscathed. In the labyrinthine corridors of the newly established underground headquarters, the tension was as palpable as the damp, earthy air. Theo, his brow furrowed in concentration, pored over the cascading data screens that lined the walls of the war room. Each flicker of light represented a piece of the sprawling puzzle that was their defense and offense against the Regent's encroaching forces. Illyria, her features illuminated by the soft glow of the monitors, stood beside him. Her expression was serene, a stark contrast to the storm of activity around them. She was not just a figurehead. Her insights into her people's technology had proven invaluable in fortifying their position. "We need to fortify our digital perimeters," Lena advised, tapping rapidly on her keyboard. Her screens displayed streams of data, a testament to the ongoing cyber warfare. "They're probing our defenses, looking for any crack. It won't be long before they escalate their efforts." Dr. Miles, looking up from her own station where she coordinated logistics and resource management, nodded in agreement. "We should consider deploying more decoy operations. Misdirection could buy us the time we need to strengthen our core networks." At that moment, a soft alarm sounded, and one of the surveillance drones relayed a live feed of enemy movements close to one of their hidden supply routes. Mariana, who had been optimizing medical supplies and enhancements for field agents, glanced at the screen. "They're getting bolder. That's too close for comfort." Theo analyzed the drone footage, his mind racing through scenarios. "It's time to implement the Eclipse protocol," he decided. The protocol was a risky maneuver involving the complete shutdown and rerouting of their primary communications to ghost networks that would appear active but lead nowhere. Illyria stepped forward, her voice resonating with authority and calm. "While we divert their attention, we should also send a small strike team to disrupt their forward bases. If we cut off their supply lines, it will cripple their advance." The decision was made. Within hours, Theo and a team of specially trained operatives were geared up and moving silently through the underbrush towards the enemy's nearest base. Their movements were covered by the sounds of the nocturnal wildlife and the soft hum of their cloaked vehicles. Back at the headquarters, Illyria and Lena monitored every phase of the operation. Illyria's understanding of her own technology allowed them to cloak their movements almost entirely from the enemy sensors, giving Theo and his team the element of surprise. The siege on the enemy base was swift and silent. Explosives, crafted to emit minimal noise and light, were placed strategically. As the charges detonated, the base was thrown into chaos, its communications cut, leaving the enemy blind and disoriented. With the mission a success, Theo's team extracted under the cover of darkness, leaving no trace behind except the smoldering ruins of what was once a formidable enemy outpost. Upon their return, the team was met with quiet congratulations. Their victory was a significant blow to the Regent's operations, but everyone knew this was just the beginning of what promised to be a prolonged struggle. As they prepared for the next phase, Theo and Illyria shared a moment of quiet reflection. "Every victory brings us closer to peace," Illyria remarked, her gaze fixed on the map that now showed fewer red dots. Theo nodded, his determination renewed by her words. "Together we'll end this war," he promised, a vow that echoed not just through the room but across the hearts of all who fought with them. Their alliance, born of necessity and forged in the fires of conflict, had grown into a formidable force, one that might not just change the course of their battle, but also the destiny of two worlds intertwined by fate and battle. In the waning light of dusk, the remote site selected as the new command center hummed with activity, its isolation deep within a forested valley, giving it the guise of tranquility that belied the urgency within. Hidden from the prying eyes of satellites and shielded by dense foliage, the team had transformed an abandoned radar station into a fortress of technological innovation and strategic warfare. Dr. Miles oversaw the installation of solar panels and wind turbines, ensuring their energy independence, while Lena tested the newly established communication grid, her screens flickering with complex encryption algorithms. Theo, with the help of a construction crew from among the local sympathizers, fortified the structure, reinforcing its walls against both physical and electronic intrusion. Illyria, meanwhile, was deep in training with Mariana, honing her ability to control the emission of her bioluminescent energy, a skill that could prove vital if she needed to hide or, conversely, to dazzle and disorient her enemies in combat. "Focus on the energy within," Mariana instructed, watching as Illyria closed her eyes, her skin beginning to emit a pulsating glow that rhythmically brightened and faded. As the night deepened, the team gathered in the central command room, around a large holographic display of the globe, where lights indicated their network of allies and the locations of known threats. Dr. Gupta pointed to several hotspots. "These are the areas where we suspect the region's forces are strongest. We've intercepted communications suggesting they're mobilizing for a major offensive." Lena pulled up intercepts of encrypted transmissions, her face serious. "They're not just targeting Illyria now. They're after us, our families, anyone connected to us. We've stirred a hornet's nest, but thankfully, they haven't cracked our codes yet." The discussion turned to their next move. "We strike first," Theo proposed, his voice firm. "We use the network to our advantage, launch a series of misinformation campaigns to throw them off, and then strike at their operational heart when they least expect it." Illyria stood, her expression resolute. "We have the element of surprise and the moral imperative. We fight not just for my home, but for the safety of this world too. Let us be as cunning as we are brave." Their plan was daring, a simultaneous global strike on the region's key installations, combined with a cyber offensive to cripple their communications. As the team set to work, programming drones and coordinating with operatives across the globe, the weight of their task was palpable, each member aware of the stakes should they fail. Hours turned into days as preparations continued. Theo took a moment to step outside, gazing up at the star-filled sky, a visual reminder of what they were fighting for. Beside him, Illyria joined, her gaze also upward. "When this is over," she began softly, "I hope to show you my world, not as a princess, but as a friend." Theo smiled, his hand finding hers. "And I'll show you mine, not as a battleground, but as a home." Their shared vision of the future was a tapestry woven with threads of hope and determination, a world where their cultures could learn from and enrich each other. But first, they had to ensure that future by winning the war that loomed over them. With the first light of dawn, the order was given. Across the world, screens lit up, drones deployed, and allies moved into position. The battle for the future, fought in shadows lit by stars and driven by the hearts of a few brave souls, had begun. As the sun broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain, the global network activated by Theo and his team pulsated with covert operations. Each member, expertly executing their part, was a cog in a vast machine designed to reshape the interstellar balance of power. In a darkened room aglow with monitors, Lena monitored the cyber offensive. Lines of code cascaded down screens, each sequence a powerful stroke in the digital warfare being waged. She orchestrated a symphony of hacks and countermeasures, disrupting the region's communication networks. "Jam their signals. Let confusion be our ally," she instructed her team, her fingers a blur over the keyboard. Mariana, in a lab filled with equipment humming and blinking rhythmically, injected a serum into a culture of cells that glowed with the same energy as Illyria's. "This should enhance your natural abilities, making you more resilient to their weaponry," she explained to Illyria, who watched with a mix of hope and anxiety. This biological enhancement was their wildcard, a secret weapon cultivated from the unique symbiosis between Illyria's physiology and the Starlight Stones. Outside, Dr. Gupta and a team of engineers prepared the drones, each equipped with technology capable of cloaking their movements and masking their thermal signatures. "We've adapted the Starlight Stone's properties to bend light around these drones. They'll be nearly invisible," Dr. Gupta said, his voice barely audible over the whir of engines preparing for launch. Meanwhile, Dr. Miles coordinated with allies across the globe, her voice steady and commanding through the communication system. "Strike teams are ready. On your command, Theo. Theo, standing before a large tactical display, took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, where months of planning would either come to fruition or fall disastrously short. "Initiate the strike," he ordered, his voice resolute. Across continents, the hidden allies launched their assaults. Explosions lit up the pre-dawn darkness in remote corners of the world where the Regent's forces had set up their outposts. Each blast was a declaration, a clear message that the Earth was not undefended, nor would it yield to extraterrestrial tyranny. Back at the command center, Illyria, enhanced by the new serum, prepared to send a powerful psychic message to her loyalists, rallying them for the final push against the Regent. Her eyes closed, her body surrounded by a luminescent aura, she reached out across the cosmic expanse, her voice a beacon in the darkness for all who opposed the Regent's rule. The battlefields were diverse: digital realms, shadowy government facilities, secluded military outposts, and the vast, silent stretches of space between stars. Each front saw fierce clashes, with Theo and his team constantly adapting to the ever-changing dynamics of war. As reports of their initial successes trickled in, a cautious optimism filled the command center. Yet Theo remained vigilant, aware that the Regent would retaliate with merciless force once regrouped. "Prepare for counterattacks. This isn't over yet," he warned, his eyes scanning the global map, noting every movement, every anomaly. By the end of the day, the landscape of the conflict had transformed. The Regent's network was severely crippled, his forces in disarray. But the victory was not without cost. Losses on both sides marked the harsh reality of war, and the shadow of further struggles loomed large. As the team regrouped, weary but resolute, Illyria spoke words of gratitude and determination. "Today, we turned the tide, but the path ahead remains fraught with peril. We stand together as allies, as friends, united by our shared vision of freedom and peace." In the flickering light of the command center, their faces hardened by battle but softened by camaraderie, a new chapter in the saga of human and alien unity was being written, one of defiance, courage, and the unyielding spirit of interstellar kinship. The new dawn greeted the weary warriors with a pale light filtering through the leaves of the hidden command center's canopy. The night's victories, though substantial, were tempered by the palpable losses of their comrades in arms across the globe. In the quiet that followed the storm, strategies were recalibrated, wounds were tended, and the heart of their mission rekindled with renewed urgency. Illyria stood by a newly erected digital map, her finger tracing the lines of power that now flickered uncertainly in areas once dominated by the Regent. Her face, marked by the luminous strains of her recent psychic exertions, was set in a determined line. "We must press on," she stated, her voice carrying a soft but undeniable command. "My people are ready to rise. They await just a sign." Next to her, Theo nodded, his own features drawn from a night without rest. "We've got their attention, and more importantly, we've sown chaos in their ranks. Now's the time to introduce the next phase, Operation Starfall." Dr. Miles perked up at this, stepping forward to join the conversation. "Starfall? That's the zero-gravity combat training you've been developing?" Her interest was piqued, recognizing the potential of such tactics in their asymmetrical warfare. "Yes," Theo confirmed. "It involves deploying small teams in low orbit, equipped with the latest in cloaking tech, to intercept and neutralize the Regent's space-based assets. It's risky, but it could give us the control of the skies, both theirs and ours." Mariana, just returned from the lab, chimed in with her latest findings. "I've enhanced the serum to boost neural connectivity. It might help our pilots react faster under zero-gravity conditions. It's ready for field testing." Lena, meanwhile, was hunched over her console, lines of code streaming across her screen. "I've secured communications for Starfall. Encrypted, ghosted, and routed through a dozen dead satellites we repurposed as relay points." As the team formulated their plans, a sudden alert broke their focus. A surveillance drone, one of many they had stationed around the globe, transmitted a live feed of the Regent's forces regrouping near what appeared to be a heavily fortified base on the dark side of the moon. "Looks like the Regent isn't sitting back after all," Dr. Gupta observed, analyzing the feed. That's a quantum silo. They're prepping a counterstrike. Illyria's gaze hardened, her mind racing with the implications. They aim to strike at Earth directly, a show of force to scare any dissenters into submission. Her resolve crystallized in that moment, a queen ready to protect her newfound realm and her native one. We launched Starfall immediately. The preparations were swift and precise. Within hours, the specially trained strike team, cloaked in the latest adaptive armor and equipped with Mariana's serum, boarded their stealth shuttles. Theo, clad in the same armor, turned to Illyria before boarding. "We're making history today," he said, a grim smile playing on his lips. Illyria placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes meeting his. "Make it back safely. We have a world to rebuild, and I need you here for that." As the shuttles lifted off, vanishing into the sky with barely a ripple, those remaining at the command center returned to their stations. Screens glowed, data streamed, and hearts beat in sync with the pulsing lights of the operation. High above Earth as the shuttles approached the moon, the silence of space enveloped them. Theo, his body light with zero gravity, felt the serum heighten his senses, every detail of the enemy base below etched sharply in his vision. The battle that ensued was silent but ferocious, a ballet of blinding maneuvers and precise strikes. Earth's first spaceborne infantry, wielding technologies forged from the melding of two worlds, clashed against the Regent's lunar defenders. Back on Earth, every heartbeat at the command center was hitched to the fate of the Starfall team. And as the first reports of their success crackled through, a cheer broke out, echoing through the forest, a sound of victory for the Earth and the stars beyond. The aftermath of Operation Starfall marked a turning point in the conflict. The successful neutralization of the Regent's lunar base had not only crippled their ability to launch counterstrikes against Earth, but had also sent ripples of rebellion throughout the cosmos. News of the victory, carried on encrypted waves, ignited sparks of uprising on distant planets under the Regent's sway. Back on Earth, in the now vibrant command center buzzing with renewed vigor and hope, Theo and Illyria planned the final stages of their campaign. The holographic map of the galaxy, alive with the movements of their allies and the retreats of their foes, showed a shifting balance of power. "We've got them on the back foot, but we can't let up now," Theo stated, his eyes scanning the galaxy-wide chessboard. "It's time for the final push, the liberation of the starlit dominion." Illyria, standing beside him, her stature regal and her gaze fiery, nodded in agreement. "My people are ready. The signal of your victory has reached them, and they are rising. We must lead them now, not just in battle but into a new era." As they strategized, Dr. Miles and Lena worked on securing a stable and secure communications link to coordinate the multiplanetary offensive. "We've established a quantum entanglement relay," Lena reported, her fingers flying over her console. "It's untraceable and instantaneous, perfect for your coordination needs." Meanwhile, Mariana and Dr. Gupta prepared the final enhancements for the troops. Using the advanced biotech developed from Illyria's physiology, they had created a serum that would temporarily boost the soldiers' endurance and reaction times. "This will give our forces the edge they need to overcome the Regent's elite guards," Mariana explained as she distributed the doses. As the Earth turned slowly, casting long shadows from the great redwoods surrounding the command center, the final operation, dubbed Celestial Dawn, was launched. Fleets of ships, stealthily enhanced and bristling with both human and alien technology, slipped through wormholes and folded space to emerge near the starlit Dominion. The battle for the Dominion was fierce. Space around the once peaceful planet turned into a canvas of light and shadow as beams of energy crossed with meteoric ferocity. Theo, piloting one of the lead ships, maneuvered through the chaos with the grace of a seasoned astronaut, each move a testament to the training and enhancements he had undergone. Illyria, aboard the flagship, used her deep connection to the Starlight Stones to enhance the fleet's shields and weapons. Her presence was a beacon to her people, her royal sigils broadcast across all channels, a symbol of hope and defiance. The turning point came as the ragtag fleet of rebels, inspired by Earth's victory, joined the fray. From small fighters to massive cruisers, the people of the Dominion, united under Illyria's banner, pushed back against the Regent's forces with unyielding ferocity. On the surface of the Dominion, as the Regent's stronghold was finally breached, Theo and Illyria led the charge. The Regent, realizing his defeat was imminent, attempted a final, desperate strike against Illyria. But Theo, anticipating this, stepped between them, the serum giving him the split-second speed to intercept the attack. The battle paused, a breathless moment, as Theo, wounded but unbowed, stood before Illyria, his sacrifice the ultimate testament to the bond between their worlds. With the Regent captured, and his forces surrendering, the battle subsided. The starlit Dominion was free, its skies clear for the first time in generations. Illyria, her eyes finding Theo's as he was tended to by medics, knew that this victory was not just the end of a war, but the beginning of a new alliance, a new era. As celebrations erupted both on the Dominion and Earth, their combined futures seemed limitless. Together, they would explore the stars, heal their wounds, and build a universe where such sacrifices would no longer be necessary, a universe guided by the light of stars and the unbreakable spirit of unity.